Hei alle sammen, jeg befinner meg nå på konferanse på Håndverkeren med Sam Semir Osmanagich, som en professor i antropologi. Han en PhD i Mayan Studies, og han fant eller oppdaget de bosniske pyramidene i 2005 som ligger i Visoko, som en 5 pyramider som ligger i en valley. Det visst nok underjordiske tunneler der, og det visst nok en veldig sterk energi og en energistråle som skyter opp fra disse pyramidene og opp i universet. Han sier at hele historien må skrives om, og at dette de høyeste pyramidene som funnet, og de eldste pyramidene visst nok som funnet i verden. Så dette kjempespennende. Jeg skal prøve å få et intervju med han i morgen, og jeg skal filme litt fra foredraget.
After this short introduction, the biggest and the oldest of all, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. We have learned that the pyramids have nothing to do with the pharaohs or tombs. The pyramids are structures, constructions, geometry. 7 years ago, when I first came to the town of Visoko, not because of the pyramid, but they invited me to see the local museum. This is what I saw. Before that, for 25 years, I had been investigating pyramids in ancient civilizations. I looked at it, I saw 4 sides, I saw triangular faces, took compass showed me east, west, north, south. I immediately knew that this was an artificial structure. However, the Bosnians were saying, how can we have pyramids? We did not have pharaohs. Last 7 years we got a very interesting phenomenon in the southern Europe. For the first time, a huge archaeological project is not run by the Department of Archaeology, universities, museums, Ministry of Cultures, by the people who are paid to do their job. It is run by the non-profit, non-government foundation named the Archaeological Park Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun Foundation, which we established 7 years ago. By the people who are enthusiasts, by the people who love the research, pyramids, and their country. In the last 7 years, we have spent 340,000 hours on archaeological excavation, sample testing, lab analysis, radiocarbon dating. And we concluded that in the central Bosnian town of Visoko, 30 kilometers northwest from the capital city of Sarajevo, we're going to have direct link Oslo-Sarajevo next year from June 1st. There is a valley of pyramids, the pyramids of the sun, moon, dragon, earth, and love, and under the valley is a huge network of the underground tunnels. And we named the whole valley the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids. From this imaginary line up, we have 220 meters. Traveling all around the world, I concluded that there has to be a set of scientific criteria that the pyramids should fulfill in order to call them pyramids. The first one is geometry. You have to have geometry of the pyramids. 4 sides, triangular faces, obvious corners. The second one is the orientation. For some reason, all the Chinese pyramids are oriented to the north. The oldest Egyptian pyramids, north. Peruvian, north. Cahokia, north. So far, we thought that the best orientation is the northern side of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The error from the perfect north, 0 degrees and 2 minutes. Almost perfect. According to the Bosnian State Institute for Geodesy, who did the measurements in 2006, the orientation of this, the northern side to the cosmic north, has an error of 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and 12 seconds. Never in human history such a precise orientation had been achieved like in this particular case. The third element, construction material, you can see that. The fourth one, inner passageways. The fifth one, underground tunnels. The sixth one, water streams. Above the ground, rivers. We have two major rivers here. And underground water streams. And the seventh, sacred geometry, as we will see. All 7 scientific elements are present here. Here is the colossal Mexican pyramid of the sun in the Teotihuacan, 74 meters. Here's the Cheops pyramid, 147. Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, 220. The biggest pyramid on the planet. So, 220 meters is from here. However, when we remove the green color, expose on this satellite photo the pyramid to different lights from different angles, we can actually see the pyramids extends the corner between north and east side, goes all the way to the bottom of the valley. And this eastern slope goes all the way to the bottom of the valley. So from this point up, over 360 meters. 7 years ago, I shocked the archaeological community, and especially Egyptians, with the size of 220. What are they going to say when they see 360? So if you go back in time, like this 4-dimensional visualization did, then you can see clearly the shape, the geometry. 3 main Bosnian pyramids, Sun, Moon, and Dragon. When we connect their tops, give us a perfect equilateral triangle with the distance between the tops of 2,170 meters and inner angles at 60 degrees. When we connect the top of the Love and Earth and River Foinsa, we are getting another equilateral triangle. Triangle within triangle, sacred geometry. And then when using the center of all these triangles, and when we extend the sides to the natural landmarks, like the place where 2 rivers meet, we are getting a new set of dots. When we connect them, we are getting more triangles, and we are getting the base for the flower of life. Imagine the surveys from the air, the ancient builders were capable of. And then when using the same point, we are getting the base for the sacred cube. When we look at the shadow of the Sun Pyramid during the summer solstice, June 21st, just before the sunset, on the left is the western slope of the Moon Pyramid, completely covered by forest. To the right, we can see the shadow of the Sun. Before the sunset, the shadow of the Sun forms another pyramid, just briefly touching the Moon Pyramid with the same height. 2 months later, we are still watching the shadow of the Sun, 6:30 p.m., western slope of the Moon. 7:30 p.m., the shadow of the Sun completely covers the Moon Pyramid. And the top of the shadow touches the top of the Moon Pyramid. In symbolical way, it's saying the rule of the sun and the day is over, and the rule of the night and the moon starts. I've seen hundreds of sun and the moon pyramids in Central and South America, but never such an obvious astronomical relationship like here in Bosnia. And then we applied very sophisticated satellite thermal technology. We measured the temperature of the valley. Here we have the graphs. During the daytime and during the night time. And then we were checking the differences. We wanted to see the heat loss. If it is a natural hill, it is very compact. so the heat loss, the energy loss is very slow. But if you have an artificial structure due to existence of passageways and chambers, the heat loss is much quicker. Well, the heat loss was the quickest in the case of the Sun Pyramid, and the Moon, and the Dragon, and the Love, confirming that these are artificial structures. And then we asked our friend Dr. Harry Alford from the UK to bring his so-called PIP camera, where he can film what he called bioenergy fields, which are not visible to the naked human eye. So he did film just a natural pointy hill in Bosnia, and those bioenergy fields were horizontal, different colors, blue, green, red, and so on. And then he filmed the Bosnian village. And then again, those bioenergy fields were horizontal, green, red, green, blue, red, pink, and so on. And then he filmed the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, the town of Visoko. And we can see that those bioenergy fields are vertical. Unfortunately, other places with the pyramids do not allow anyone else besides archaeological circles to investigate them. The same case in Egypt, Mexico, or China. And really, we are the only ones who are open for all these different scientific measurements. Now, let's see, why do we have this phenomenon? For the first time ever, the pyramids were filmed with this type of technology. You will see how the pyramids are actually acting. The Sun Pyramid, hot coffee. Look at the red color inside the pyramid. It's getting bigger and bigger. This is the energy which is getting accumulated. Look how much more. Look, everything is red now. And this energy got released through the top of the pyramid. And those horizontal fields got pushed, and they are becoming vertical. Now disregard this little circle here, it is not part of today's lecture. Archaeological trench number 4C, 2006, we removed about 1 meter of soil, discovering rectangular blocks. 4.5 meters, 1.5, 45 centimeters, 7 tons. Flat top, break at 90 degrees, flat side, break at 90, flat bottom, it has 6 flat sides, 6 breaks at 90 degrees. Obviously, it was made by the intelligent hands, not by nature. Next to this block is the second one. You can see that they form the same slope, same angle, the third one, and so on. Not only that, this is just the first row of blocks. Below is the second one. And then below the second one, there is a third row, a little bit moved. Why is it moved? Because of structural stability. Below the third one is the fourth one. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of blocks. Obviously, it is not the tectonic movement that they made those rows of blocks, but planning and intelligent hands. This summer, 2012, we have expanded some of our sections. This is our sections 4A, at the northern slope of the pyramid. This is our section number 5. With those blocks, number 12, actually 10, this is 12. So we took samples from those blocks and sent them to analysis to 6 institutes for materials. 4 of them in Bosnia, 1 in France, and 1 in Italy. Let's see what they said. From the Institute for Construction, from Tuzla, Bosnia, they said that these blocks were artificial construction material, which was obviously wet at one point. from the University of Sarajevo. They analyzed the sample and they concluded that it was a man-made concrete. Now, there are two elements that determine the quality of the concrete. The first one is the hardness. Harder the material, better the quality. Our concretes in 21st century are in the range from 10 megapascals to 60 megapascals. 60 megapascals is the best quality concrete, custom made in Germany and the US. Well, this particular sample from the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun has the hardness of 73.6 megapascals, harder than anything we can make today. The second property of the concrete, which is very important, is the water absorption. If water can get into the concrete blocks during the winter time, the water freezes and then it breaks. So the idea is to keep the water absorption very low. Our norm up to 3%. And this sample only 1%. It explains the durability of the concrete blocks in the Bosnian pyramids. According to every book at the faculty for engineering, or architecture, or construction, the concrete was invented in ancient Rome, a little bit over 2,000 years ago. When I met the president of the Bosnian Academy of Sciences, Professor Matić, 5-6 years back, I asked him, Professor, why don't you come and visit the pyramids? They're just 28 kilometers from Sarajevo. He said, you claim that what you have there is a concrete and the oldest pyramid. I tried to tell him it was not me who claimed that, but scientific institutes. But he was not listening. He said, everybody knows that the concrete was invented in ancient Rome. Therefore, you don't have concrete and you don't have pyramids. Turned his back, left, and after that, not a single member of Bosnian Academy of Sciences came to listen. Therefore, it was very interesting to see what the descendants of those ancient Romans will tell us. So we sent our samples to the Politecnico di Torino, which is the most distinguished Italian construction institute, 25,000 professors, PhDs, students. They analyzed and they told us what we already knew, that the binding material for the concrete was produced by clay heating process. And then we sent samples to the most famous living expert for the ancient concretes, Professor José Davidovich of France, a guy who said in 1978 the Cheops pyramid was built from the concrete blocks. They were attacking him for 15 years, but once he established his own institute for geopolymers in France, he experimentally proved that that was the case. Today, he's special advisor to European unions. He got the biggest medals in France. He worked with MIT, Drexel University, and the others. He wrote 25 books. He saw our samples. He said, this is a man-made concrete, which he put under his electronic microscope, and he found what he called geopolymer cement, the artificial binding. So by removing huge layers of soil, exposing the concrete blocks, and photos like this show our typical Bosnian productivity. One is working, 100 is watching. I don't know about that. And on top of that, one is having a speech. So one would say, hey, in Little Bosnia, after the war, now you finally have a hope. First European pyramids, the biggest on the planet, so the tourism will start coming in, and the economy, and you would expect that everybody lined up behind this project. Maybe in a normal country. the cultural establishment started attacking us. Professors of history and archaeology from the University of Sarajevo were saying nonsense. There are no pyramids in Bosnia. We never had pharaohs. We never had hundreds of thousands of slaves. From the National Museum, they were saying, oh, they just want to make money. What pyramids? We have systematically checked all the areas in Bosnia. So what they did, before we started excavation in 2006, they wrote a petition signed by 25 leading Bosnian archaeologists, historians, geologists, asking the government not to allow us to do the investigation. In April of that year, the Bosnian Prime Minister came, he saw those big rectangular blocks. He saw the concrete. He said, Dr. Osmanagich, this is the concrete. Then he saw tens of thousands of people coming to the town of Visoko. He said, this is good for the economy. Just keep working and don't worry about the jealous scientists. Well, those jealous scientists got upset. They wrote the leading figure in European archaeology, Dr. Anthony Harding, the guy who was the president of European Archaeological Association. They asked his help to start this project. So Dr. Harding was writing against us. Even today you can find his articles on the internet. But he did not bother. Then he organized the second petition, which was signed by 85 archaeologists, geologists, anthropologists from the US leading universities, from English and French universities. They were asking the Bosnian government to start the project because we were ruining existing archaeological sites. We don't know what we were doing. What pyramids? It's nonsense. Well, the Bosnian government rejected their petition too. So now they got upset. So they wrote letters to the national European archaeological associations in Italy, France, Germany, Croatia, Norway for sure, and they were asking them to boycott this project, not to send archaeologists from Europe to Bosnia. And if they do, when they come back to their respective countries, they won't be able to find the job. So threatened by this, in 2006, I did not have archaeologists from Europe. I said, fine. So I asked Egyptian government to send us 3 experts. Probably they were laughing and they said, okay, we will send you. Pyramids in Bosnia, nonsense. We'll send you those experts. So they sent first Dr. Ali Barakat, geologist with 4 years of experience in archaeology. He wrote books about the Egyptian pyramids. He was a National Geographic. He spent 42 days in Visoko. On June 23rd, at the press conference in Sarajevo, he was presenting his written report, which he ended with the words, "The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is a man-made pyramid." A big boost for us. But then, the very same day, June 23rd, from the Bosnian National Museum, are sending letter to his boss, Pharaoh Dr. Zahi Haris. In this letter, which can also be found on the internet, she is saying, your man was in Bosnia, and he confirmed that the pyramids exist. You have to do everything to stop him. That's impossible. 2 days later, June 25th, meeting in Cairo took place between the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Tourism, and his Supreme Council of Egyptian Antiquities, with one topic on agenda: the effects of discovery of Bosnian pyramids to the tourism in Egypt. Imagine that 20% of tourists, instead of in Egypt, go to Bosnia. Majority of the tourists are from UK, France, Poland, and Russia. And now Bosnia happens to be on European continent also. 20% of $15.5 billion is over $3 billion. The discovery of Bosnian pyramids is not a local scientific issue. It's a global, scientific, economical, and political. After the meeting, Zahi Hawass came in front of hundreds of cameras and journalists with the words, "There are no pyramids in Bosnia. Those so-called concrete blocks are just the natural blocks. Dr. Barakat is no expert in pyramids, and Osmanagich is hallucinating." Dr. Barakat went back to Cairo. He used to work for the Ministry of Geology. And they fired him because he dared to speak his own scientific mind without asking for the permission from his superiors. And what did we do? We kept hallucinating. And opened the project for the volunteers from all over the world who came at their own expense to the country of Bosnia and Visoko. And they are helping us, removing the layers of soil from the biggest pyramids in the world. Such enthusiasm has never been recorded in any archaeological project. People were feeling they became part of history-changing project. That feeling lasted 3 weeks. When the president of the Bosnian State Commission for the National Monument Preservation with the member of the commission changed the law, and the whole pyramid was claimed to be protected area. We had permission from the regional government, and if it is protected area, that permission is not good anymore. However, there is a possibility to apply with the project documentation for the permit from the federal government. And we wrote the project documentation together with the biggest archaeological faculty in the world, the one at the Cairo University. Every country would be happy to have the leading Egyptian archaeologists coming to our country working on some site, every normal country. In our case, the project documentation was rejected 3 times by the Federal State Commission. The monuments with no explanation. And her boss, the Minister for Culture, during 2 terms, was saying publicly, while I'm minister, the foundation will never get the permission. And not only that, they started organized groups, 8 people, ministers, people from the government, and they were distributing the work. You don't give them permissions, you cut them the funds, you boycott the media, you don't let them go to UNESCO. We continued with the project. However, the magazines, the newspapers were writing against us. If the politicians would come at the site, they would write against them. So very soon, no politicians anymore. Because they were scared. They live in a society which is based on fear. Fear in academia, fear in business, fear in politics. When they saw that we kept working, they could not realize how. Because I was spending my own money from Houston. Then they started writing how these guys have the money. And they made up a story. They said during the 1990s he was in Russia with Yeltsin's mafia and he made his fortune. And of all the countries I've been, until then, I have not been in Russia. But they know that their article with be taken by somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, who people will forgot who originated the article. What did we do? We sued the government. So for the first time, one small non-profit foundation sued the big government. For 4 years, they kept the file in the drawers. So when the new government came, the judge got it out from the drawer, and for the first time, one small non-profit foundation won the case against the government, and the court said that what they did was not legal and not according to the law. So this year, 2012, we were back on the Bosnian Pyramid of Sam, removing more and more sections of soil above the concrete blocks. In 2010, we organized our first international summer camp for volunteers. For the first time, we had archaeologists from Europe, from Italy, France, Spain, UK, Hungary, and Croatia. They were showing me the letters from their professors from, for example, University of Milan. And their professors were asking them not to go to Bosnia. But when they did, they came back, they sent me another copy of the email stating, since you went to Bosnia, you won't be able to find a job as an archaeologist in Italy anymore. But they told me, this project is much more important globally than our individual destinies. When we started excavation of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, we got experts from their offices from all over the world, and one who did come to Bosnia, Dr. Robert Shaw, at the very beginning of excavation, and he claimed it's all natural. Really? Is Mother Nature capable of shaping these plates on all 6 sides at 90 degrees and then transport them from the quarry to the place of the construction and then lay them out so perfectly, one next to each other, the same line, even building the steps? Or is it made by the intelligent hands? You make your own conclusions. The Moon Pyramid, the western slope, north and south, perfect orientation. On the top, we have flat area. 46 archaeological trenches. Everywhere we are digging, we are finding pavements, rectangular structures, vertical walls, terraces, steps, shaped blocks and plates, more steps. In other words, under the layers of soil, there is a huge construction in the shape of the pyramid, with the perfect side orientations. On the very top, we cut a hole to see how the profile looks like. We can see one row of blocks, and then we can see clay, 10 centimeters, second row, and then clay, the third row, and then clay. The ancients were very wise. They knew the properties of the natural construction materials. For example, for the clay, they knew it was excellent binding material, it's a waterproof, it's the thermal insulation, and it gives the flexibility to the structure. In the shape, in the case of the earthquake, the structure does not collapse. It remains, it moves, it breathes. The top of the pyramid, we remove the layers of soil, and we are finding terraces from sandstone. Sandstone has been a construction material in this area for thousands of years. Here at the bottom of the Moon Pyramid, we have the large size of sandstone, clay, which was used as the construction material, medium size, clay, and a small, large, medium, small. Fibonacci formula. Next to the Pyramid Valley, there is an artificial hill in conical shape. In archaeology, they are called tumulus or tumuli. This one is 32 meters in height. Remove the layers of soil, and we are finding nicely shaped blocks, megalithic in their size. Of course, this photo shows much improved productivity. One is working and just two of them are watching and getting on camera. We have noticed in the last couple of 3 years that this tumulus in Vratnica and also the pyramid have been attracting a lot of spiritual and metaphysical people. We'll be talking about it. During the excavation, while removing the soils from one of the terraces, we find this nice sandstone artifact, which is the shape of the foot, with the 5 toes. It matches the shoe size of 36, which is nowadays the shoe size of women. This might be a crucial proof that the pyramids were built by the women. Now, how old are the Bosnian pyramids? They are all covered by layers of soil. If we can figure out the age of the soil, then we can give a minimum age of the pyramid. The science that investigates the origin and the age of soil is called pedology. Professor who established the Institute for Pedology in Bosnia, Professor Rasulovic, took samples of soil from Sun and the Moon Pyramid, and he concluded in his written report that the age of the soil is somewhere between 12 and 15,000 years. So if the soil is 12 to 15,000 years old, it means that the pyramid is even older than that. On the Moon Pyramid, we've noticed that the blocks on one of the terraces are actually 2 layers block, with the top layer and the base, with the top layer and the base. The Institute for Materials at the University of Zenica told us that the top layer was actually glued to the base. Well, if it was glued, it means that if on one of the terraces we remove the top layer, that in the binding material we might be able to find organic material, which can tell us the age when this terrace was made. Sure enough, in the basis of binding material, we found this brownish material. We thought it was organic material. We sent samples to Polish Institute for Physics at the Silesian Institute of Technology. They confirmed that it was organic material, and the age of organic material is before Christ, 10,350 plus minus 50 years, or 12,350 years. So there is a big probability that this terrace was built over 12,000 years ago. And finally, this summer, while working on the Sun Pyramid, Italian archaeologist Niccolo Visconti, while removing the layers of soil above those concrete blocks, he discovered below the layers of soil this brownish, again, organic material. And at a closer look up, we saw it was a fossilized leaf. So obviously, the structure was there, the concrete blocks were there. And the wind brought the piece of leaf. And it remained there for a very long time. We sent the samples to 2 different labs. The first results are in. From the Kiev lab from Ukraine, they applied radiocarbon dating, and they got the age of 24,800 years plus minus 200 years before present. 25,000 years. Is this the age when the pyramid was built? No. According to the context, this is just the minimum age of the pyramid. Everything we touch on this project changes the way mainstream science is telling us. They've been telling us no pyramids in Europe. Well, we have the first pyramids in Europe. They've been telling us the biggest pyramid is in Egypt. Well, this is the biggest pyramid on the planet. The most precise orientation of the sides is in the case of Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. The best quality concrete is on the top of the Sun Pyramid. And finally, the oldest pyramids is here, in the heart of Bosnia. If they accept this discovery, their PhDs are not good anymore. The history books have to be changed. The professorships also. The way they teach our kids is wrong. So what are they going to do? From little Sarajevo, and Zagreb, and Paris, and London, and Boston, and New York, are they going to change all that? Or are they going to try to start one little foundation? They have all the instruments of power, media, even the internet sites. Somebody mentioned Wikipedia a couple of times today. 5% of the entries over there you cannot change. Unfortunately, we are on those 5%. I could not even change the wrong date of my birthday. Why are the Bosnian pyramids older than Egyptian pyramids? You know, in Bosnia, we tend to build everything without a permit. So while they built ours, Egyptians were standing in the line waiting for the construction permit. But really, what was before 12,000, 13,000, 18,000 years? According to the archaeologists, nothing. It was just a primitive caveman. It seems that they do not read about the sensational archaeological discoveries in the last 15 years on the bottom of the Pacific floor, between the most western Japanese island of Enagoni and Taiwan and the mainland China. 13 underwater cities have been discovered, with the beautiful megalithic construction and steps and temples on the top, and more steps and half-circle terraces. When the first photos from divers came to the Japanese newspapers, the Japanese scientists said, "This is all natural." It was made by the water streams. And who came to their help? German and American historians and archaeologists. They're saying, yeah, it's all natural. Why they are saying that when the kids can see this was artificially made? Because people will start asking questions. Who built it? When? Well, let's see. 80 meters below the sea level. This is Pacific Ocean, the biggest world's body of water. Imagine how much water you would need to raise this Pacific Ocean for 1 centimeter. A lot. And how much you would need for 80 meters? You would need a global catastrophe. When was the last global catastrophe? 12,000 years ago. The end of the last ice age. Huge quantities of ice from the northern Europe. At that time, this hotel was covered by 3,000 meters of the ice layer. Same thing in northern Asia, the same thing in northern North America. So the huge quantities of ice melted, the water went to the world seas and the oceans, and the Pacific Ocean rose for 80 meters. Big civilizations came to the bottom of the Pacific floor. They vanished. Atlantic Ocean, 120 meters. Eastern Turkey. According to the mainstream science, everything started 7,000 to 8,000 years ago. In the Sumer, Babylon, Akkad, Assyria, ancient Egypt, ancient India. Well, in Eastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe, now we all know there are 45 monoliths in the shape of letter T. They reach up to 75 tons in mass. Obviously not made, but in primitive man. Well, the skeletons have been found around, and they go up to 13,000 years before the end of the last ice age. Medical anthropologists are saying it simply should not be there. Well, it is there. Can one stone block change the human history? Yes, in eastern Lebanon, Baalbek, you got a stone block which is 1,250 tons in mass. Our cranes can lift 350 tons. That's massive. Here we have example of 4 times heavier stone block. Who was capable of moving those stone blocks? From the quarry to the temple, 1.5 kilometers to the hill, we can see the stone blocks of 840 tons in the 4th row. If you are to lift 840 tons, you cannot use slaves and ropes. You have to have technology, not like ours, different. What is the problem with the weight, with the mass? The only problem is gravitational force. You neutralize it and you can move it with your finger. Machu Picchu. We think that we know everything about this town between Andes and Amazon in eastern Peru. Every textbook, every encyclopedia, every history book is saying one thing. Machu Picchu was built as the royal retreat for Incas. Now, Incas were in this area from the 12th to the middle of the 16th century. We know that. What we very often forgot is that the Spanish came, besides the genocide and cultural side, they did one good thing. They were writing everything they saw. 1536, in their chronicles, they were saying that Incas were very primitive with no tools or transportation means. Well, all the books are saying one thing, all but one, mine. I'm saying that we did have at least 4 distinctive civilizations. The first one, using blocks of 250 tons. That's not the only problem of getting this block on the top of this mountain, 2,500 meters in height. Another problem is the physical chemical analysis of this material. This material is nowhere to find 180 kilometers around. The closest quarry in Bolivia. Even today, we don't have the roads to the top of the Machu Picchu. In 1960, we got the train, yes. But who were moving 250 tons from Bolivia to the top of this mountain between Andes and Amazon? After the first one, we got the second civilization. Different style. The blocks are tens of tons in weight. Between them, no binding material. They are so perfectly fitting on each other that after thousands of years of earthquake, it's still here. The third civilization, we have blocks, they are all the same size. That's our logic. Make a factory, make a billion pieces, people come, they buy, they build their palaces and temples. Thousands of years passed. Incas came. They found the lost city on the top of the mountain. And they are using the smaller pieces of rocks. They are separating those huge rooms, making a little primitive chambers for their royals and primitive roofs, and that's where they were bringing their royals. Let's take a look at the city one more time. The city is here. Let's rotate for 9 degrees the city. And look what the 3 mountains, Jannecke, the young mountain, and the red mountain, are making. Nose, mouth, cheek, eyes.
God. Oh my God.
After tens of thousands of years, the original builders of Machu Picchu still have their message written not in stone, but in terraforming that was on such a large scale. Look at this face. The more you look at it, the more you realize how calm, peaceful, and beautiful it is. And it is facing the universe. It's telling us a lot about those builders, even with their eyes closed. 2008, in Bosnia, we have had our first international scientific conference on Bosnian Pyramids. 55 scientists from 17 countries concluded that the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is an archaeological phenomenon, not geological, not natural. Dr. Nadir Selam, triple PhD, Egyptologist, archaeologist from Cairo, he said the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is the biggest in the world. Professor Ezra Zubrov, archaeologist from Buffalo State University, after he checked the site, he said, you need to find out who built the Bosnian pyramids, when they were built. We got it on camera, interview, he went back to New York, his colleagues put a lot of pressure, and now he is distancing himself from the project. The German archaeologists from Kiel, working independently from us, 3 kilometers from the Sun Pyramid, found in the cultural layers 6,000 to 7,000 years this fine ceramic pyramid with 4 sides, with 4 corners, with a flat top. Even the ornaments were pyramids. National Museum from Bosnia, who was working with a German archaeologist, tried to hide this pyramid. Why? Because those who were against us now started finding proofs that we were right and that they were wrong. 2011, our second international scientific conference on Bosnian pyramids, 27 scientists concluded this is a globally important project, the history books will have to be changed. And we had boycott from all world's media. 2012, we had another conference, this one with the less people, 8 to 10 people, and they were coming with more proof. This has become an interdisciplinary scientific project on unprecedented scale. Never in history for archaeological projects so many scientists were involved, like in our case. Next year we're going to have another conference with our friends Klaus Donna and Philip Coppens and J.J. Hurtak, who was mentioned here, and 10 more people. We have free flyers, so you can take them, and you can come at that time to Bosnia. Now, we spent several years doing the Hair Construction Complex. We don't intend to spend another 100 years trying to convince everyone on this planet that we have structures in Bosnia. We have to move on. We have to answer the question, what was the purpose of Bosnian pyramids? Archaeologists, Egyptologists, geologists cannot help us. Nobody taught them in schools about the purpose of pyramids, about their true and real purpose. But the experts from energy can help us. The physicists, electrical engineers. The first one to come was physicist from Zagreb, Croatia, Dr. Slobodan Mizrak. He came with a 10-member team with the instruments to measure hertz, kilohertz, megahertz, gigahertz anomalies in the Pyramid Valley. He was going around on the hills in the neighborhood, he couldn't find any anomalies. He was going around the pyramid, the sun, nothing, until he came to the very top of the pyramid. In the radius of 4 meters, he detected electromagnetic field of 28 kilohertz frequency. This is the frequency which does not come randomly in Mother Nature. You need to have a machine to generate this frequency. And then we measured the strength of the signal. At the surface, 1.9 millivolts. 3 meters higher, 3.9. You go higher and higher, the strength of the signal is getting higher. Engineer from Serbia came independently, Goran Marjanovic, and he measured the same frequency on the top of the Sun pyramids. Sound engineer Heikki Savolainen from Finland, he came. Paolo De Bertolis, anthropologist from Italy. We had 4 different teams who came at 4 different times with their equipment, and they all confirmed that we do have this frequency in this radius on the top of the Sun pyramid. In science, it is called international verification of the phenomenon. We have some people who are saying, oh, it's impossible to have this electromagnetic or energy beam on the top of the Sun pyramid. I believe that, I don't believe. Opinions are irrelevant in science. Testing, analysis, dating, that's what counts. So, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is not only the construction, the biggest one on the planet, at least until now, but it is an energy machine that produces continuous energy beam of electromagnetic nature on the very top. Not to the left, not to the right, no technical radiations around. Only this electromagnetic field, which is getting stronger and stronger as it moves away from the pyramid. And it is continuous. We measured it in summer, in winter, in fall, in spring. It is there. It does not change. Perpetual modular machine on this planet. It's been working for 25,000 years. Now, this signal is getting stronger. And our technology is telling us that closer to the source, it should be stronger. You move away, it should be getting weaker. And our technology is Hertzian technology, Hertzian technology. But since in Bosnia everything is upside down, the pyramids in Bosnia works differently. If you move away, it's getting stronger. Let's call this non-Hertzian phenomenon. Today we don't have this technology on the planet. However, in 1899 and 1900, the guy who was born just 250 kilometers to the west from Bosnian Pyramids, in his lab in Colorado Springs, was experimenting with this technology. And his name was Nikola Tesla. He invented what is today known as Tesla's coil, the generator. And he was sending the energy beams from one end of his lab 18 meters away to the other end. And he was able to light up the light bulbs, even if it was burned. And just before they are going to burn down his lab in Colorado Springs, he made his last experiment. He sent the energy beam from his coil to the ionosphere around our planet. It reflected. It was coming back much stronger, non-Hertzian. And he was able to lit up 10,000 homes. That's how many Colorado Springs had at that time. For the first time in this cycle of human history, it was proven that non-Hertzian phenomenon was possible, that unlimited quantities of energies were possible, that the wireless transportation was possible, that free energy was possible, that clean energy was possible. And now, in the case of Bosnian Pyramid Sun, we have an energy machine producing energy exactly in a clean way with unlimited quantities. Why is history so important? Because you can learn so much from the history. Did American corporations accept Tesla's invention? Of course not. If you have free energy, how are you going to sell it and make money? But if we did have a free energy, that would be the first pillar for the free society. And the second pillar is the free flow of knowledge, of information. So with those two pillars, we have a base for society of free men and women. Of course, much more about everything I spoke about, you can find in the books which is for sale there. And we got a few more minutes to talk about the underground labyrinth. Under the Bosnian Pyramids, huge network of tunnels. Entrance to one of them, 2.5 kilometers from the pyramid. The tunnels runs for tens of kilometers. We can see traces of two civilizations. The one who built them, very advanced, and the second one who decided to fill in all those tunnels with this material, to build the walls and to shut everything down. Hundreds and hundreds of the drivers carefully planned. Chart shows the tunnels, different colors, different years, 2006, 100 meters, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So far we have over 840 meters of open tunnels. We check regularly all the safety elements. The air is perfectly clear. Air circulation excellent. The temperature 12 degrees in every corner of the tunnels. This summer we did a little expedition. We went to one of the tunnels which had a rear, which we eventually removed manually. And then we started moving through those very narrow sections of the tunnels, with the smiles on our faces, finding more sections with the water, the walls that nobody has seen for thousands of years. And that's the beauty of a project like this. We even had the rope because we went over 150 meters, a lot of intersections. We had to make sure that we're going to go back. Finding more interesting blocks with the carvings. And everything we find, we relate to media immediately. No secrets in the Bosnian Pyramid project, unlike all others. The walls, some of them run for tens of meters. We are finding channels, and we have channel, 1.5 degrees movement, water releases negative ions. We analyze the water, we did chemical and microbiological analysis. The water is perfectly clean and drinkable after thousands of years being there. We are finding those huge megalithic blocks. This one was discovered in 2006, covered by conglomerates. We cleaned it. We found out that it was 8 tons in mass, sitting on support. If you have support, it means somebody put it there and then they place the block. The surface looks like relief with the hills and valleys and the rivers. We took samples from top of it, sent it to the lab. They told us that this block is actually ceramic material, meaning made by intelligent hands. And then we have checked the geo-radar instrument if there was anything inside. What we discovered was that the block was made in 2 pieces. The base and the cover. Secondly, exactly in the middle, there was like an oval object. It was not water, it was not hollow place, it was not ceramic, it was not metal, it was some type of mineral, most probably quartz crystal. So, what we have here, this block is positioned above the underground water stream, 22 meters below. Water moves, generates the energy. Energy hits quartz crystal. It starts working. It is surrounded by ceramic. Ceramic vibrates, and the vibration generates electromagnetic field, which can be measured by our scientific instruments. So we are in the presence of ancient technology, different than ours, but technology. They are smart enough not to invent plastic, artificial life, but use the natural materials and manipulate with the huge quantities of energies. Whoever comes 10 meters in radius of this megalith is already within its aura, and you can feel the energy with your bare hands. Thousands of years back, our bodies were the best instruments. Today, we use this, which is sometimes useless, or this. But our bodies in the past knew where the positive places, where the negative. Megalith K1, 2006, covered by conglomerate. We removed the conglomerate. Here is how it looks like today, 4 tons on its surface, carved symbols, more symbols. Total of 25 symbols. Not alphabet, but symbols. Maybe energy symbols. That's a new expression for the mainstream science. And more symbols. And more symbols. Some of them look like the combination of the geometry and the letters of the alphabet. Well, the combination of geometry and alphabet is really good description for the oldest European writing, the runic writing, runes. There they are. Geometry and some letters. Well, we have 7 carvings that match runic writings, the ones at the top. And we have one possible decipherment, which is based on the Ralph Blank's book, the Book of Runes. And it goes like this. Gate is closed. We are on standstill. We will have to fight, to defend and conquer, until we are able to go through the Stargate. Everything we do, we need at least 3 independent confirmations. This is the first one, but intriguing. Moving through tunnels, well, not always alone. Orbs are joyful, and they always check what we do. And you can have them on your digital camera. Perfect spherical shape. When we are here in this hall tonight, we are exposed to the negative cosmic radiations. Our body cells are fighting those radiations. When we are here tonight, there are at least 10 intersections for the Hartmann grids, 10 for Curie's, 8 for Schneider's grids. There is underground natural radioactivity, bad for us. There are underground waters, bad for us. We measure all these elements in the tunnels. No negative cosmic radiations. Hartmann grids equals 0. No negative natural radioactivity. The values are 10 times less than minimum. And no negative energy from the underground water streams. Those big blocks, ceramic blocks, they are systematically placed to receive that energy, neutralize, transform to positive. So once you are in the tunnels, you are in the most safest place on the planet. How does it affect our body? One of our youngest volunteers helped us. Engineer Jan Spelko from Slovenia brought his instruments to measure the human aura, the bioenergy field around our body. Of course, I was one of the first guinea pigs. 10 fingers. Aura before I enter the tunnels. If you have continuous aura, you are in good shape. If it breaks somewhere, potential problem. My left side looks good. We need blue. Oops, the knee, the right knee, there is a start here, it interacts, and then it continues. Another possible problem. Now, if you have a problem here by the knee, it means that you might have a problem with the blood circulation. This was before I entered the tunnel. I spent 1.5 hours, came back, hour much more continuous, and this problem was patched. Healed while I was there. And the red, which is pressure, is moved away. So while inside there is some type of the healing process in your body, since you don't have all those negative radiations, your body cells don't have foreign enemies, they can start doing their job. They can start the regeneration process. They can start fixing problems in our body. So, purpose of underground labyrinth, not only to connect all the pyramids, but also with all these energy flows, electromagnetic, ultrasound, with the absence of all these negative radiations and the high concentration of negative ions, help our body to recover from our daily life. In the last few years, Bosnia is not only the country of war and violence and problems, it's becoming a country of archaeology and tourism and the volunteers. Tens of thousands of tourists every year. They came from 80 countries. Even the private initiative started blooming. The youngest are coming in front of the tunnels. And those not so young. And the teams. Well, it was. It's Latvia. And the tourists from Malaysia. They came, they laid on the concrete blocks of the Sun Pyramid, getting the positive energy from the pyramid. How to finance this project? The idea is to build a complex, a replica of 5 pyramids, the sun and the moon and the dragon and the triangle between them, and the love and temple of earth and tumulus and underground labyrinth, or 5-star hotel, archaeological museum, Congress tourism, place for the volunteers, rent a car, rent a guide, rent a paraglider, rent a Bosnia. Healing, tourism, recreation. It would cost about 15 million euros. So after the lecture, if we can kindly collect it. Summer solstice 2012, 150 people from 25 countries. We were waiting for the summer solstice and sunset with the mantra, with the love and harmony and unity. And after 1 hour, when we rose our hands up, you could feel the energy of the pyramid trying to help send this signal to the whole world. In the back we have a flyer for the next year's event. I want to have not 150, but 500 people. These are very powerful messages. So some of you I expect to join us next year. And finally, 3 years in a row, we organize International Summit Camp for Volunteers. People come from all over the world. 2010, 500 of them from 30 countries. In 2011, from 32 countries. In 2012, from 52 countries. All European countries, but also Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. And they go where? To Bosnia. country of war. They spend all their savings. They participate in accommodation. They work for free. And they are so happy that they cannot wait to come again next year. And always with a smile, above or below ground, because they know they are part of something big, history changing. For the first time, they don't need to be archaeologists, professors. They can be common people with a desire to be active part in such a huge project. With a wish to what we have today, completely covered by soil and vegetation, we expose one more time to the world as the biggest and the oldest pyramids of all. Thank you very much.